Thanks for tuning in to New Mediator. Today we discuss the power of piracy, the next level of the web, social media and SEO working together, pizza coming out of a Coke machine, and more.
You are now plugged in to a HipVine podcast. For more, go to HipVine.com.
New Mediator Podcast, episode 21 for July 12th, 2012. Connected times are here.
There is only one podcast to bring
e-business,
social media marketing, Facebook, Twitter,
LinkedIn,
Google+,
YouTube, news and how-tos, tips, and tricks. Very interesting because this is the new media revolution. Can you dig it? Welcome to New Mediator.
Welcome to the New Mediator Podcast. I'm RM Downey, and this is the final episode of the New Mediator Podcast. But don't worry, there's another show, a new show, that's taking its place called Connected Times. Debuting very, very soon. You can find it, just Google iTunes and then Connected Times. And it will pop right up, and you can find the link there to download to iTunes, or search the iTunes podcast store for Connected Times. You'll also be able to get it on HipVine.com, HIPVINE, and its primary home will be on YouTube, on our channel youtube.com/HipVine. This show will cover e-business, tech, social media marketing. But unlike other tech shows, we will actually have walkthroughs, tutorials, how-tos. It's a show that will be worth your time. And hopefully, every time you listen, you can feel like you got something out of it. You learned something, you have something to leverage for your business. We'll have interviews and discussions. And sometimes episodes will be a compilation of Google Hangouts, Skype interviews, and always in-studio coverage of great topics in the world of tech. Now, this being the final episode of New Mediator, and my attempt to make it a little bit more timeless rather than timely, because we know how tech news gets out of date real fast. Something that will definitely have some longevity if you're either web design or the future of web in general is something called HTML5, which you may or may have not heard about. But if you haven't, you need to know that it's not just a bunch of web code. It's going to change the web and the way you think of websites, and maybe it already has. Basically, your browser is going to turn into almost like an operating system itself, where the websites are applications that can do pretty much anything a program on your computer can do now. So no longer is it just a web page that you read, watch a video, look at some pretty graphics, but you can actually store data, and you could use a Photoshop program that was completely web-based, or theoretically I could record a podcast on a website, or play any game right on the web, even a first-person shooter. There's everything being in your browser. Everything. In fact, Google has these laptops called Google Chromebook, which are pretty much getting to what I'm talking about. Basically the whole operating system is geared around your browser, and your applications are in Google Chrome, and your documents and everything. So you may have not noticed, but the web is changing drastically. HTML5 is the backbone for the next era of the World Wide Web. And HTML5 is already integrated in many browsers. Chrome is one of the best. And now Firefox, Internet Explorer are right there behind them.
So the tech industry is filled with buzzwords, and there's no buzzword that's thrown around more often nowadays than HTML5. So let's take a look at what is HTML5. Now, if you look at it from a literal point of view, it's just the next version of the HTML specification. But in practice, this term has now grown to encompass the new changes in HTML, and in addition to that, the new things in CSS3 and also JavaScript. So in our case here, we're going to talk about HTML5 as that grouping of new technologies which allow you to do really rich content directly in the browser. Now I have this little site pulled up from the W3. It's at w3.org/HTML/logo, and they have a nice little thing that talks about what some of the new features are in HTML5. So if we look at the first one, it's semantics. And this is essentially a set of new tags which make your HTML code more meaningful. I mean, we've always done web development with tons and tons of divs. You would use a div for everything. Well, now we have new tags like a header tag, a nav tag, a footer tag, which makes HTML a lot more meaningful. The other is offline and storage. So this actually allows you to save to local databases as well as caching data offline so that you can create web applications that actually run without a connection. And this is really important, especially on mobile, where you can create an HTML5 experience and still be able to reach and use that experience even when you don't have network connectivity. Device access is another big one. This includes things like the geolocation API for making your applications location aware, and also to be able to access different sensors on the device. Connectivity, this is the ability to do real-time applications using WebSockets, which are really important for a lot of applications. Multimedia is an area that we're going to be specifically focusing on here, and this is the ability now to incorporate audio and video directly into the browser without needing a plugin like Flash. The other area we're going to focus a lot on is 3D graphics and effects, and this is using some new tags, particularly the canvas tag, which allow you to do really impressive visual effects, and is very similar to the way in which you used to do those things in Flash. Performance and integration, this is essentially allowing you to build more performant, robust applications. This includes things like web workers, which allow you to actually do multi-threading now directly in the browser. And lastly, we have CSS3. This is not technically part of the HTML5 specification, but it's made in conjunction with it to allow you to do some really stunning visual effects directly in CSS3.
And that was an excerpt from lynda.com online training going over the basics of HTML5. Now, if HTML5 can enable amazing things in a two-dimensional space, to bring it to the three-dimensional space that we rarely see on the web is something called WebGL.
So earlier in this course, we did a whole section on working with the HTML5 canvas element. And if you remember back then, we used a 2D context, which allows us to interact with the canvas, obviously in a 2D fashion. But there's also a 3D context, and that's using a technology called WebGL. And this allows us to do amazingly rich 3D graphics directly in the browser. Now, if you're coming from a Flash background, this is very similar to what you can do with the new Stage 3D technology that we created for Flash. One of the issues, obviously, with WebGL is its varying support across browsers. But let's look at an overview of what WebGL is. So WebGL stands for Web Graphics Library, and it's a JavaScript API for rendering interactive 3D graphics with compatible web browsers without the use of plugins. Now, this technology is based on OpenGLES 2, and again, very similar to Stage 3D. I will say that Stage 3D is a smaller set of that API, so that it can reliably run safely across all platforms. This is more of a direct port of OpenGLES 2. Now, currently, no support is planned for WebGL in Internet Explorer, which makes it somewhat difficult in trying to create any type of application with WebGL, because most people don't have the luxury of saying, well, forget about anybody that's using IE. So that is definitely a limitation you need to be aware of.
So those are two technologies that you should at least be aware of if you're a web designer or are thinking about taking your application or your website to the next level. Now, the other aspect of web design in this day and age is trying to get your content to place high in and relevant in search engines like Google. The other thing you need to learn to leverage, of course, is social media marketing. If you don't have a social presence, then you probably should. I'm sure there's some exceptions, but if your brand or service has anything to do with the public, or it's retail or anything like that, a social media presence could only help. Many people wonder if social media marketing and SEO can work in conjunction with each other to drive traffic to your website. The answer is that it can, but the world of SEO and social media are very different. SEO and social media have a kind of yin and yang relationship, according to internet marketing expert Lee Odin. Content acts as the glue that holds the two together. It's one thing to optimize content for a search engine. It's another thing to respond to a consumer, or in the case of social media, audience demand. You can continue to create new content that uses keywords that your customers are interested in. Simultaneously, work on building your social networks and build trust with your audience, so you will have a platform to broadcast and engage your audience with your content.
Hi, this is Dr. Ralph Wilson with Web Marketing Today. I'm in Chicago at the Search Engine Strategies Conference here with Lee Odin, who's an expert in all sorts of online marketing. But today what I'd like to do is kind of focus in on the topic of the value of content for search engine optimization and social media marketing.
Sure. Search or SEO and social media kind of have a yin and yang relationship, and it's content that holds them together.
Which is the yin?
Yeah, the yin and the yang. Yeah, there you go. Let's say SEO is.
Okay.
So content's what makes SEO go round, right? It's content that gets displayed in the search results. You have web pages and obviously other things like Office docs, PDF files, images, videos, and so on and so forth. So I think what the mistake a lot of folks make in the SEO world is they go do their keyword research, find out what keywords are popular, and they optimize existing content for that. But to be competitive these days, I know what I'm finding as a consultant working with all different kinds of companies is recommending new content. Recommending content that actually empathizes with customer needs. A lot of companies do a so-so job at creating their own company content, hire an SEO.
This is what we're about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very egocentric, isn't it?
Right.
So in empathizing with buyers, buyer personas, the creation of those to understand what information needs they have is something that can make SEO even more effective, right? So now that we've got a content plan in place, now we optimize that for keywords that are in demand, and there we go. In order to get that content in the eyes or the minds of our searchers or our buyers, social media can be a fantastic distribution channel for that, right? So at the same time we're creating content, we're spending a certain amount of time growing our social networks so that we can share that content with them. A lot of people are empowered to publish, meaning that they write blogs or they'll write comments that can include links back to the content we're promoting through social media. Links make are like electricity that make the Google web go round, and that's what can increase search visibility. So that's sort of the SEO and content and social media relationship.
So I write the content, say on my website or a blog on my website or something like that. And then I use social media to point to that and to let people know that it's out there.
Right. And before all that, what we do is we identify the, like in the buying cycle, in a B2B scenario, a lot of times folks talk about buying cycles. So we have very broad concepts at the beginning of the search, and then as we move down the funnel, we get more and more long-tail phrases. It's just paying more attention to our content plan to be empathetic towards those kinds of content. So do you deserve to rank for B2B marketing, or online marketing or web marketing, right? Do you deserve then a niche for a product name and actually planning content out accordingly?
Now, so I've got the content. Now I'm going to let people know about the content. how do I do that on social media without being annoying and
right.
not really fitting in?
Well, one of the most effective ways to do that is to use social media monitoring tools that will help identify where there are people already having conversations about topics that line up with your keyword targets and start to participate in those communities. So not only will the monitoring tools identify individuals, but also channels. So, for example, one company might use a listening tool to identify, wow, it's not Twitter. It's not Twitter where they need to be playing. It's actually on YouTube. A lot of people are active in groups or creating content on YouTube, so this brand can go create their own channel and become part of that community, dropping links or shout outs to their own videos as they publish them.
But not just pointing to their own stuff, but participating in the community that's there.
Right. Participation is pretty key. Being valuable, being a resource, a trusted resource. Initially, SEOs, I suppose, come across as begging for links and being a little bit desperate. But if someone
pretty accurate.
Yeah, like what you do, you create a lot of content, right?
Yeah, right?
And so people are waiting to see what you're going to publish next, and then they link to it, and you didn't ask anybody. I'm sure you have tens or hundreds of thousands of links to your content because you established a following, you established a community, and they're waiting to see what you're going to put up next, and if they like it, they link to it.
So, customer-centered keyword research, create the content, let people know through social media.
Exactly.
Thanks for sharing with us. Tell me about your business and what you do.
I'm the CEO of Top Rank Marketing, and I also write a blog, toprankblog.com, about search, social, and content.
So there are some great tips for the use of SEO and social media marketing in conjunction with each other from Lee Odin and Web Marketing Today. And now for something completely different.
Let's Pizza is the only machine in the world capable of making healthy and genuine pizzas using entirely fresh ingredients. Once you have chosen your desired pizza among the choice available, the pizza is kneaded, rolled out, topped, cooked and served, starting with the water and flour, in less than 3 minutes. Let's Pizza offers a choice among 4 different types of flavors that can be chosen each time from a wide menu with an overall autonomy of 90 pizzas. The system of payment accepts coins and banknotes, provides change, and is compatible with other payment systems such as vending keys, tokens, or other means.
So too lazy to go to a pizza restaurant? Frozen pizza just not the same? An Italian company is about to bring fresh pizza right next to a Coke machine near you. You're either really excited or really depressed about the idiocracy-esque state of human consumption. Either way, this innovation is pretty intriguing and most likely a sign of things to come. So let the thoughts of loss of jobs and obesity float away or repress, and let's see how they're actually going to pull this one off. From their official site, imagine having fresh pizza cooked to perfection with a choice of 3 toppings in less than 3 minutes. It may sound too good to be true, but thanks to Let's Pizza, it's now a reality. 365 days a year. The Let's Pizza vending machine is already a major success in Italy, and now it's attracting widespread interest among food vending connoisseurs in the UK. Let's Pizza kneads the dough, forms a round pizza shape, adds tomato sauce, layers toppings, and then bakes it all in front of your very eyes. There are no frozen pizzas here. Let's Pizza is a mini pizzeria that's open 24 hours a day. That's right, pizza vending machine. One person very influential in our connected era is a man by the name of Paulo Coelho. Paulo always chose to see the world through his own eyes. While growing up in Brazil, Paulo discovered his passion for writing. His parents tried to suppress his dreams so that he would follow the path of being a lawyer and appealed to their idea of success. Paulo eventually dropped out of school to travel and find his own way. It wasn't until decades later that Paulo's dream came true. Although Paulo's first masterpiece, The Alchemist, was fairly well received, it was far from being the hit that it would become until one digital copy was posted online. A Russian fan posted a Russian translated version of his book online, and the book went from 3,000 copies being sold in 3 years to 1 million copies being sold with no additional promotion from the publisher. After monitoring the success of the pirated versions of his book, Paulo began posting his own books on BitTorrent sites such as the Pirate Bay. The pirated success of The Alchemist has contributed to the book being an all-time bestseller with over 65 million copies sold. When his publisher discovered that he was sharing his works with the masses for free, they were very unsettled at first. Later, his publisher would come to agree that building his fan base and brand by letting them read and preview his works would contribute greatly to the author's mainstream success. Not only does Paulo support sites such as the Pirate Bay, he has even volunteered to travel to their native Sweden to defend them on trial, being pressured by anti-piracy lobbyists to put them out of business. I'm openly supporting their site. I even volunteered to travel to Sweden to discuss the case of open contents, but I never got a reply from them, Coelho told Torrent Freak. Since the dawn of time, human beings have felt the need to share. From food to art, sharing is part of the human condition. A person who does not share is not only selfish, but bitter and alone. Speaking of piracy and digital distribution, segueing into the brilliant comedic mind of Louis C.K., Louis C.K. makes a joke out of the industry, takes distribution into his own hands. Louis C.K. is somehow holding on to his comic street cred, despite having elite Hollywood caliber creative control in almost every facet of his career. From his hit show Louis, his HBO stand-up specials, to his production company where he owns every piece of equipment. Louis' original television series Louis on FX is a raw look into the sometimes dark but often hilarious world of a comic trying to balance life and career. He's earned his faith from the corporate elite not by bowing to executives or being a yes man to any project that comes his way, or by trying to perfect his personal brand, but by simply making content he thinks people will like. His desire to create original, engaging content comes from over 20 years of trial and tribulation on the comic circuit before finally making it in the mid-2000s. Louis C.K. is taking his original ideas from the content in his productions to original ideas in the production and distribution process itself. Louis C.K. is using his production company to produce Louis C.K. Live at the Beacon Theater and distributing it for $5 exclusively through his website, louisck.com. According to a recent interview with sports and pop culture media personality Bill Simmons on the BS Report, a great podcast, by the way, Louis has been watching over the shoulder of film editors and producers for years and is genuinely interested in the entire production and distribution process. Louis isn't so much intentionally cutting out the middlemen or trying to make a statement about the inefficient entertainment distribution process, but just feels that he has the passion, the experience, and the community to support and to avoid unnecessary expenditures and hassle. Louis' oversight spans the entire process, from renting the space at the Beacon Theater to designing the buttons at checkout process on his website. This oversight is done in the faith of being able to produce and easily sell uncompromised content to his fans, and Louis admits that this is certainly an experiment. And I quote, "People of Earth, minus the ones who don't give a expletive about this, it's been amazing to conduct this experiment with you. The experiment was, if I put out a brand new stand-up special at a drastically low price, $5, and make it easy as possible to buy, download, and enjoy, free of any restrictions, will everyone just go and steal it? Will they pay for it? And how much money can be made by an individual in this manner? Says Louis. Louis proceeds to talk about the current status of the experiment. Quote, the development of the website, which needed to be very robust, reliable, and carefully constructed, was around $32,000. The show went on sale at noon on Saturday, December 10th. 12 hours later, we had over 50,000 purchases and had earned $250,000, breaking even on the cost of production and the website. As of today, this was December 13th, 3 days later, we've sold over 110,000 copies for a total of over $500,000, minus some money for PayPal charges, etc. I have a profit of around $200,000 after taxes, $75.58. He jokes. This is less than I would have been paid by a large company to simply perform the show and let them sell it to you. But they would have charged you about $20 for the video. They would have given you an encrypted and regionally restricted video of limited value, and they would have owned your private information for their own use. They would have withheld international availability indefinitely. Despite the comic nature of his discussion, including the joke about being taxed 99%, Louis was able to break even on the project in less than 24 hours, providing that his experiment worked. It is hard to avoid people pirating, but when you offer something that seems to be a fair price to a consumer, they tend to flock. Even if the special is pirated, some models show the incredible financial benefit of virility, even at no initial direct benefit. The residual benefit content being pirated has been seen by such authors as we discussed, Paulo Coelho, and his book The Alchemist. And you can be part of the experiment yourself by going to louisck.com, and he has another special at this point, and this article is a little bit dated, but everybody's still talking about his creative business model, and a lot of comics are copying him at this point. Since this article was originally posted, it has been a proven success. There's at least 5 other big-name comics that are using this model. And that's going to wrap it up for the final episode of the New Mediator podcast. I've been your host, RM Downey. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/HipVine, for our new show, Connected Times, coming very soon. You can also get it on iTunes. Just search in Google. Type iTunes space Connected Times. You can follow the show on Twitter @Connected Times. And be sure to visit HipVine, HIPVINE.com, for the latest in e-business, marketing, social media, tech, gadgets, Apple. It's your magazine for the connected age. It's been a great year. We're moving on. See you soon.
There is only one podcast to bring e-business, social media marketing, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn,
Google+,
YouTube, news and how-tos, tips, and tricks. Very interesting because this is the new media revolution. Can you dig it? Welcome to New Mediator.